As March always does, it roars in like a lion, and I said to all of our ladies as we were getting ready to come over here this morning, can you smell monsoon? And certainly we're all there, but I want to thank all of you for being willing to risk the raindrops that we came through to get here. We have an exciting program for you today, and I personally want to thank Jamie Woodson of SCORE for being willing to come out on such a rainy day, but just being willing to come to Hendersonville and tell us the news about what's going on in education and with SCORE around the state. A couple of other things that I want to make announcements about this morning before I turn this over to our pastor for the invitation is please make sure that all of you as chamber members be on the lookout for a survey that is going to be coming out in the middle of March. The chamber has from time to time been involved in working to survey its membership so that we can be a better chamber for you. This time we've engaged the National Chamber to help us with that so that hopefully not only can we get good information back, but we can get the right analytics to actually understand what the message is that you're sending us. So we'll continue to badger you to fill out those surveys, so please be sure to do that. I also, before we get started today, am delighted that the new general manager for Bluegrass Country Club is here with us today. He's brand new on the job. He's only been here for 4 days. Comes to us straight from Las Vegas. It's a little bit of a culture shock for him. But please let me introduce to you Terry Clark. I think he'd like to say hello.
How many in the room are members of Bluegrass? Raise your hand. That's pretty good. That's great. I see I've got a lot of work to do. I am grateful to be here and to have the opportunity to serve the board and members of Bluegrass. I see a bag over here, so I guess that means that we're going to be giving that away today or sometime. And I know that we're going to be hosting your annual golf tournament in April. You can be assured that full vision and effort will be put toward making that one of the better events of your year. Those people who raised their hands got an email yesterday telling you a little bit about me. For the others, for the last 18 years I've been in the Southwest, in the Coachella Valley, Palm Springs, California, and Las Vegas. I've been a club manager most of my life, and I love being a club manager. That's why I do it. I've got 2 boys. Brady is a warrior. He is commander of Special Forces troops. My youngest son is San Diego Beach Bum down at Pacific Beach and Mission Beach. But at the same time, he continues to hold the job as a marketing manager. My wife is Cynthia, and she will be heading here as soon as we relocate to Hendersonville. And we're just so happy to be here, but I just want to take a chance to say hello. And my door and telephone is always open. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Terry. We know we're going to have a great time working with you. It's now my pleasure to welcome Josh Jerem with Bluegrass Baptist Church up to the podium to give our prayer and invocation. Please welcome Josh.
If you'll pray with our invocation. God, we thank you for the opportunity to be here to fellowship with God. We pray also that you will bless us in our endeavors, God. We pray that you will give us wisdom in the vocations and the things that you have provided for us. And so, God, we thank you for that. God, we ask your blessing on
my pleasure to introduce the chair of the Hendersonville Chamber. Before I do that, I want to take just a moment to personally recognize Lynn Silverman. You know, Lynn's not just a figurehead up here. He stands pretty tall at this podium every month for you all. But I want you to know what kind of work he does behind the scenes. Lynn is intimately involved in a lot of economic development work, a lot of educational support work in the community, things that you don't see on a daily basis because they're not public. They're things that he does behind the scenes to help make this community a better place. And so I wanted to take this opportunity to thank Lynn for all of that work. He's not just a pretty face. So please help me welcome Lynn Silverman with Huntington Learning Center.
Well, welcome everybody. I'm really excited about our speaker today, James Woodson, and we'll be introducing her in a few minutes. But in the last 2 weeks or so, I've had an opportunity to really attend some great events. We've had the Golden Apple reception, which was put on by our education committee. Really well attended. Great job at Union University putting on a terrific reception there. We had 132 teachers. Yesterday, I was fortunate enough to go to the Teacher of the Year award ceremony. That was sponsored by Compass. So I've been around some really great teachers in this county over the last 2 weeks. And I've got to tell you, we don't have an opportunity to do that. If you ever want to get really enthused about what's going on in our school systems, get around some teachers. Because that's where the magic's happening, is our teachers in the classroom. So I'm very excited also to hear SCORE's perspective on what's going on with education here in D.C. and specifically in our area. In the meantime, on with some of the business of the Chamber. Again, I'd like to welcome you all and also give our elected officials an opportunity to stand and introduce themselves. Scott, I generally put you on the hot seat from here on. We'll start off with Scott Foster.
Welcome to Hendersonville. Scott Foster, your mayor. Bill Kemp, county clerk.
Thank you, Bill.
Anthony Holt, county executive. Matt Stamper, Alderman, Ward 6.
Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. Okay, we have quite a few new members this month, and I definitely want to give an opportunity to recognize them. And as I do every month, encourage you to seek these folks out and do business with them. Because the more we can do business with each other, the stronger the community as a result. So starting out, we have Academy Mortgage, Chris Payne, Boomerang Hotels, Ron Marcoux, Comfort Care, Home Care, Mike Sluter, Diamond Oaks Auctioneers, Justin Oaks, Edison School, Rob McFadden, Foster's Floor Covering, Michael Foster, Habitat for Humanity of Sumner County, Susan Johnson, Invisible Fence, Jamie Carter, Modern Construction Corporation, Wayne Watts, NLD Partners, Sarah Steger, Premier Age Management and Medical Weight Loss Center, William Ronnie Walker, Renew Crew of Highland Rim, Marty Pendleton, Sopapias, Rebecca Fitz, Southeastern Commercial Properties, Inc., Kelly McDaniel, St. Joseph of Arimathea, I'm sorry for butchering that name. Arimathea, thank you very much. Joseph Howard, State Representative William Lambert, and Studio 366, Julia Clark. So again, please be on the lookout for these folks. I'm sure their names are also going to be listed on our website, and please find a way to do business with them. Okay, as I mentioned early on, I've got the pleasure today introducing Jamie Woodson to you. I'm going to read a little bit from her biography, which is very impressive, so I don't want to miss anything here. Jamie Woodson guides SCORE's work as president and CEO, and she has been a leading figure spearheading Tennessee's education reform efforts. Prior to joining SCORE, she served for over 12 years in the Tennessee General Assembly in both the House and the Senate from 1998 to 2011. As chairman of the Senate Education Committee and later as Senate Speaker Pro Tempore, Woodson was a key leader in Tennessee's first-to-the-top Act and Complete College Act, which together formed the largest pieces of education reform legislation since 1992. In addition, she sponsored the overhaul of Tennessee's K-12 education funding formula and led the effort to reform Tennessee's public charter school law. Woodson serves on numerous statewide boards, including the First to the Top Advisory Council and the Tennessee Business Roundtable. Woodson received a Bachelor of Arts and Doctor of Jurisprudence from the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. She was selected as torchbearer, which is the highest honor any undergraduate may receive from the university. Woodson attended public schools in Tennessee. So it's my great pleasure to introduce to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm thrilled to be with you, and thank you so much for the very kind introduction. As I was coming through the monsoon to Hendersonville, I was thinking about how many wonderful things are happening in this community, and it's a real honor to have the county executive here and mayor here, and my friend Deborah Maggart, who many accolades are contained within my resume, but I would not have been able to be a part of what really has been transformational reform in Tennessee had it not been for colleagues like Deborah and frankly business community leaders like you all and leaders at the local level like we have gathered here today. Tennessee is in the middle of a transformational period in how we deliver public education. And the words that if you want to see where the action is, go into the Tennessee classroom. I think that those are really well said. The leadership of this chamber in putting a stake in the ground, in improving student outcomes, and saying we don't just think this is important to the business community because we want to make sure we are hiring the highest and most qualified folks. We're not just caring because it's a bottom line issue to what we are, but it's really about the fabric of the community. And if we want Hendersonville to be the community that's a great place to live, work, and play, education is a key component. And so the chamber, and Brenda, just really appreciate your leadership, has been a leader in this work. And so if you hear nothing else, I've got lovely slides that my team's helped me put together. If you hear me say nothing else, then thank you. And I want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. We are in a critically important time, and I'll show you with specific data here in a second, where we have seen in recent years truly historic gains in student achievement. But this work is really hard, and if we don't have partners like the folks here in this room shouldering into the work, having high expectations, and partnering in this work, we won't get to where we want to be, which is making sure that not only Hendersonville but Tennessee is that great community and state to live, work, and play. And so I'm really thrilled to be with you all today. I can get my thing going. First, I heard earlier that there was a little bit of confusion on what is SCORE. So it's not the Retired Executives Association. It's a little bit of a different organization. SCORE is the State Collaborative on Reforming Education. And we are a nonprofit, nonpartisan research and advocacy institution that was founded in 2009 by former U.S. Senate Majority Leader Bill Frist. And he's a retired heart and lung transplant surgeon, obviously a member of public service at the highest level of government, one of the highest levels of government, and was wondering what he would do with his time beyond the Senate Majority Leader's office. And obviously, global health issues were keenly important to him, but he really felt like in Tennessee, particularly at that time, where we were really asking ourselves as community leaders, as state leaders, as business community leaders, how do we radically transform student achievement, and how do we ensure that children in our community, businesses in our community are all globally competitive? And education is what he just kept coming back to. He came to it through health outcomes and improving health outcomes, but really what it ultimately was about was improved quality of life in so many different areas, including improved health outcomes. And so we have very simple goals, but they are big, hairy, audacious goals. And my friend Ray Boyd, who's the CEO of Radio Systems in East Tennessee, talks about big hags. And at SCORE, we have big hags. Our big, hairy, audacious goal is to ensure that every student in the state of Tennessee graduates from high school, college, and career ready. That means that they're ready for life beyond high school, whether it's post-secondary education or straight into the workforce. And that is a big hag. In the short term, because we recognize that that is such a big, audacious goal, we know that in the short term we want to see that Tennessee is the fastest improving state in terms of student achievement in the country. And we're on our way to accomplishing that big, hairy, audacious goal, and we've got to keep the pressure on. The 4 levers that we have identified, not only through our research, but from the best research in the nation, the biggest levers that we see to improving student achievement and radically transforming student outcomes are 4 simple levers. 1, high standards aligned with rigorous assessment, so having very high expectations and having the ability to measure those expectations reliably. Cultivating strong leaders. I'm looking at some of the strongest leaders in this community and in this state here in this room. We all know how important leadership is to any organization, and it is absolutely true for schools and for school districts. We have 136 in the state of Tennessee school districts and 1,700 schools. These are manageable numbers, and we know that research tells us that making sure that we have the right instructional leader in every school and the right leadership in every district is critically important to advancing student achievement. Ensuring that excellent teaching is taking place in every classroom in the state of Tennessee is critically important. Not just because it's just what we know intuitively, because when we think about the biggest influences of our life, beyond our parents perhaps, we can think of that one teacher, or for me, several teachers that influenced me at key periods and key points in my life to make good decisions and sometimes to keep me from making really bad decisions. So we know intuitively that effective teaching is important, but what research clearly tells us is that the #1 in-school factor in improving student achievement is what? The teacher. So it's not just what we feel in our hearts, it's what we know through good data. So last but not least is using data to inform instruction. Tennessee actually is the leader in the nation of having a robust group of data to help us inform instruction in the classroom. What we haven't done until recent years is take that information and use it on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to improve and inform instruction. Do we need to accelerate learning for a child? Do we need to take a step back, intervene, catch a child up, and then accelerate the work? But using data in powerful ways every single day in Tennessee classrooms is one of the big levers to improving student achievement. So just to ground us in what we all know as business leaders, which is the critical link between the economy and education. There are 3 million jobs currently that are vacant in the United States of America. And they're not vacant because they don't have folks who want jobs. They're vacant because we don't have the skilled workers to fill those jobs. That becomes very real when you're a county executive or a city mayor or a chamber leader who's trying to think about how do we recruit and retain the best businesses, how do we grow our existing businesses, and really think intentionally about that. We know that it means something not only to communities through tax bases, but it means something to individual families. An individual who has a college degree is going to earn $1.2 million more during their professional life than someone with just a high school diploma. That has a significant impact on the individuals, lives who are impacted by that, but it also has an impact on the community at large. And last, we also know that 8 out of the 10 fastest growing jobs in this state and in this nation require some type of post-secondary education. That's not necessarily a 4-year baccalaureate degree. It could be a 2-year degree. It could be a technical certificate. But some type of post-secondary education is required for the fastest growing job sectors in our country and in our state. So what do Tennesseans really think about this information? And I'd love to test this on this crowd, see if it's consistent. Now, the data that we've got and the research that we've done says that this is pretty consistent with families in Middle Tennessee because we surveyed not just kind of the broad picture of statewide, we really wanted to look at large communities, small communities, urban, rural, suburban, Middle East, and West, and we found some consistent themes across party lines, across culture, across all demographics, and that was that there's this real value in public education. Tennesseans rank improving the quality of public education as the single most important element in improving the state's economy. So we think of those things as values, but it was interesting, before our survey recipients were aware that it was an education survey, frankly, as was mentioned in my introduction, I spent 13 years serving in the Tennessee General Assembly. I had knocked on thousands upon thousands upon thousands of doors and worked with folks all across the state, listening to them. I was even surprised at the critically important to making sure that they're prepared. This is pretty important, and Deborah knows this well because she was part of the leadership because we've raised expectations and we've raised standards for Tennessee students, and we're in the process of implementing those standards, and the tough work that's happening in Tennessee classrooms today in schools all across the state are about raising expectations and raising standards. So we know that as Tennesseans we value these things. We also know that there is strong agreement that students in Tennessee need some kind of education beyond high school. That's important. 93% of Tennesseans know this. This was refreshing for us because, quite frankly, the stark reality is, as I mentioned before, 8 out of the 10 fastest growing jobs require post-secondary education. So knowing that we would intuitively say, yeah, this is important, we need to make sure we're preparing students for success, it was good to see that alignment in our research. Now, I want to walk you through, and the slides aren't going to be super easy for you all to see, but I'll at least walk you through what the data is telling us. And that's back to the historic gains. Even though we continue to have a sense of urgency, and we're going to talk about that in just a second, at SCORE, what we're seeing come out of Tennessee classrooms in the last 2 to 3 years is unprecedented in terms of the gains in student achievement. So we are heading in the right direction. A few of the indicators that tell us we're heading in the right direction: one, in our TCAP, which is our state assessment. We've seen unprecedented growth across the state. That's consistent here in this important community. But we're seeing gains in math and science and reading. In Tennessee, 55,000 more students are prepared and proficient or advanced in math. Another 38,000 in science, based on new expectations and a higher bar. So even though we raise the bar and raise the level of expectation, our students are still continuing to grow. And this is unprecedented not only for Tennessee, but it's also uncommon in the country right now. So AP exams, we have more students taking advanced placement exams in Tennessee than ever before, but we also have more students passing those exams and receiving college credit than ever before. Our high school graduation rates in Tennessee, we actually just made the news nationally, that our graduation rates are at some of the top in the nation. All of these things are good indicators that the hard, and I mean hard work that's happening in Tennessee classrooms is beginning to show a return on investment. Now, to our reality. Even though we're seeing unprecedented gains, we know that if 8 out of the 10 fastest growing jobs require post-secondary, we know we got to get kids prepared. The reality in Tennessee is that only 16% of our students, based on ACT benchmarks, are college and career ready. That's compared to 25% at the national level. And that number is a number that's grown. We were at 15% last year. It is not an easy, the difference between 15 and 16% doesn't sound that significant to me, Jamie the citizen, but when I talk to our statisticians and the folks who work this data, that's not an easy number to move. But we've got to move it, and we've got to radically move it, and that's why the work that's happening in Tennessee schools right now is so very important. So when we look at the local community and your neighbors, folks just right down the road, we see a consistent place at 16% of college and career ready by 11th grade on all 4 of those ACT benchmarks. And when we look at whether it's Wilson County or Davidson County, absolutely outperforming our neighbors. But it is a question, do we want to be the leader in Tennessee, or do we want to be the leader in the nation? And we want to make sure that Tennessee and communities in Tennessee are not just at the national average, but are at the national forefront. So it's a question that we as community members ought to be asking ourselves, and I know that the Chamber's in the process and continues work on a daily basis in that regard. So we talked some about where the increases have been in Tennessee, but what's coming together to create these historic gains? And I'm only going to go through a couple of these because I really want to do a bit of a look ahead at what we see are areas for community leaders to be thinking about moving forward. But great teaching, high standards, school turnaround. Tennessee's reform strategy also includes taking the bottom 5% of schools and radically transforming those schools from complete state takeover to partnerships with local districts to a wide variety of factors. But school turnaround is going to be very interesting what the data shows in that regard. We've got an expectation in Tennessee that the schools that were identified in the bottom 5%, those who were moved into the Achievement School District, which is a state-run school district, the superintendent, who's Chris Barbick, has a goal for those schools to be in the top 25% of Tennessee schools. That's a big, very audacious goal, but it's the kind of radical change that it's going to take for chronically low-performing schools to turn around. policymaker at the time in this education reform work, I feel pretty confident in saying that we wouldn't be seeing these changes if it weren't for leadership from the business community. So one, it's a thank you, but it's also a recognition of the responsibility that you all have as leaders to cause change. In 2007, the National Chamber of Commerce gave Tennessee an F in Truth in Advertising. Do you remember that? It was a cold, hard slap in the face for those of us who were very proud that we had 90% of our students who were testing at proficient or advanced on Tennessee tests. Problem was, those same students would take the national assessment and they were testing at 38% proficient and 43%. And we could have made a different decision. We could have said, well, you know, we don't really want to pay attention to what's happening in the rest of the world. Our kids are doing great on our test and we're just going to keep going as it's going. We didn't make that decision. Whether it was the business community, policymakers, hardworking educators, we as a state put a stake in the ground and said, no, we're going to have the level of expectation for our students, for our teachers, for ourselves as community partners, that it will take to ensure that our students are globally prepared. And so part of that was raising the bar. First with the adoption of the Tennessee Diploma Project Standards, followed very quickly by the implementation and the adoption of the Common Core State Standards. And all that's just edgy, wonky name talk for higher expectations. But what will it mean for Tennessee students? Just a few quick things on what's being implemented currently that will be fully implemented by 2014-15 in Tennessee schools. So what are standards? So standards aren't curriculum. They're not exactly what you have to teach. What standards are, very simply, are the knowledge and the skills that we expect for students to know at each grade level and in each subject area. So it's our expectation. How you get there, there's a lot of flexibility, but the expectation is very, very high. The standards that we're working under currently and are being implemented, the Common Core State Standards, were developed by state leaders as a call to arms from governors all across this country who said we want apples-to-apples comparison. We want to make sure that what's happening in Tennessee is comparative to what's happening in the rest of the country, and we want the flexibility at home to make sure we can move forward. It also means that teaching and learning is going to include more critical thinking. I don't know what y'all's math classes were like when you were children, but I can tell you what mine were like. When I was in third grade, we actually went back and pulled because there's been 7 different standards movements in the state of Tennessee in the last few decades. But when I was in third grade, it continues today, there were over 130 standards in math. Under the Common Core State Standards, there will be 30. It's going to be a lot less about checking the box and rote memorization, and a lot more about conceptual understanding and making sure that problem-solving skills are the result of knowledge, not just getting to the right answer. So it really is, and it's frankly what you all experience in the workplace every day. It's team orientation, it's understanding and being able to critically think and solve a problem. It's being able through oral and written form to share information and present evidence to show that what you believe is important. You know, I've never been able to go into whether it's my board at SCORE or when I was general counsel for a manufacturing company in East Tennessee. I didn't come in and talk about how my summer was when I came back from vacation and list that out. What I came with was an expectation with specific outcomes, and I had to show evidence if we were going to change in our way of doing business or if we were going to change in one of our strategies in our organization. So that's the expectation that students have. And we can use literature, we can use nonfiction, we can use technical writing, all of those things to test students' knowledge and not just get them reading, but get them reading as critical thinkers. And that's one of the exciting things that frankly teachers are excited about as they learn more about this new expectation. It gives a lot more time to go deeper and have more knowledge. So what does this mean for you all? And here's my ask. I'm not in the sales business. We're in the business of radically transforming how we deliver public education, but we know that we can't do it alone. And so the Chamber is a member of our Expect More, Achieve More coalition, and I really appreciate your leadership in doing this. And this is an ask for every one of you in the organizations that you represent, whether they're public sector organizations, private sector organizations, whatever they may be. We have 150 organizations from chambers, school districts, community organizations who have said, we are going to put a stake in the ground on making sure that we have high expectations for Tennessee students, and they've joined this coalition. And so if you would allow me, if you'll pull out your cell phones or pull out your pen if you're not quite the BlackBerry/iPhone user, my email address is And you've actually got more contact information. It's Jamie. We keep it pretty simple. We're still a pretty lean and mean staff. Jamie, Jamie, at tnscore.org. That's my email address. And if you just say, tell me more, give me more information about the Expect More, Achieve More Coalition, what it doesn't require is money. What we do ask is that you will help us build awareness in communities about this higher expectation for students, and you will join what is a rapidly growing movement of making sure that our students in Tennessee and the students here in Sumner County are college and career ready when they leave high school. So I would welcome any emails that you might have, and I'll be giving more information in a minute. So as we look to 2013, and I want to make sure we have time for Q&A, but as we look to 2013 and identify different priority issues, I'm going to talk about two of them. But I want to give you just a sense of where we see opportunity and where we see need. Number one is sustaining policy leadership. We're seeing great return on investment in Tennessee from the hard work and the resources, both in public and private dollars, that are going into these things. We need to make sure we stick the landing. It's not enough to change policies on paper, whether it's our educator evaluation system or this embracing of new and higher standards. We've got to execute and implement well. That's something that we know as business leaders. It's nice to have a strategic plan for your company on paper. Execution and implementation will be where the rubber really meets the road and whether or not we will achieve outcomes as a state. A focus on great teaching, I'll talk more about that in a second. Effective school leadership, using technology as a tool to enhance student learning. And last, empowering parents, because we know that they are a critically important partner in this work, as are all community leaders. So quickly, I want to talk about fostering great teaching. We know, as I mentioned before, that great teaching is the #1 in-school factor that's going to determine a student's success or failure. And so what can we do to continue to accelerate reform in this area? Well, we need to make sure that our teacher training programs are high quality and that they're preparing our teachers for the reality that awaits them in classrooms. That's tough stuff, but we need to have high expectations, and frankly, post-secondary, both traditional and non-traditional paths to the classroom are stepping up to the plate and saying, we want to make sure that we're delivering the product that our students who are in our courses would expect, but also the expectation that district leaders would have, that community leaders would have. And so they're at the table really wanting to make sure that they're preparing students to teach students in the classroom. We also want to make sure that we're recruiting the best and brightest. We've worked diligently to make sure that there are professional opportunities for our teachers, but the only path to leadership can't just be, well, I went into the administration, I really love teaching, but the only path forward for me professionally and economically was to go into the administrative central office. We've got to create multiple paths to make sure that we're getting those rock star students choosing education. And so being intentional about that, providing opportunity for those teachers is going to be very important, because the expectation of teachers is on the rise, and we need our best and brightest to help complement the work that's happening in the field right now. And last but not least, we think teacher licensure is another area. We put high expectations on students, but when we talk about whether it's our educator evaluation, student performance needs to be part of these conversations. There's a lot involved in effective evaluation. At least the data tells us for teachers, it's based on multiple measures, not just student performance, but also the qualitative side. Multiple classroom observations, those things that might be helpful. So we think it's important to make sure it's not about having the evaluation as an accountability tool, which is very important, but the power in those systems really comes down to productive feedback, a common language and expectation, making sure that teachers know where they're strong and celebrating those strengths, and then perhaps where there's weakness or where they need to do a little bit of leaning in, identifying those areas and then bringing resources to help them improve their craft and get the professional learning opportunities that they need for their students. Second priority I want to talk briefly about is technology. In our polling, we learned that citizens across the state throughout all demographics felt like real-time information on assessment was important for teachers and for parents. I know how my child's performing. This is going to be helpful because I'm going to get this much quicker. I'll be able to do something with these results. It made a great deal of sense that you would be able to use technology and get that real-time information is very important. The priority for literal technology in the classroom, well, it was high. It was significantly lower than that real-time information. priority on technology. I know that the governor has put $51 million as a proposal in for local technology transitions for school systems to get ready for the infrastructure that needs to be built across the state. Frankly, and I know we've got our county executive and city leader in the room, that's not going to get us where we need to be in local communities. It's a step in the right direction, but the right questions to be thinking about are what infrastructure is in place? Are we ready as a community to put these assessments, and not just the assessments, but learning and using the power of technology to in real time support student learning, individualize it, and really become a 21st century classroom. But leaders have an obligation to ask, where are these resources going? Will this infrastructure carry the new demands of the marketplace? And can we be wise in our investments? There will be public and private sector dollars coming into this dynamic world of technology. And so I would say, be a consumer, be an avid consumer, but be a sophisticated consumer in this work. But we think that these are real areas where we can leverage and advance student achievement in the coming year. And this is a quote that we actually published. Now, I've got a stack of information here. One, it's not information about SCORE. Y'all get enough sales pitches. What it is an annual report. We have it available online, and the cards that you have on your tables can get you that information. But it's essentially a comprehensive look at where we are. What policies have been put into place? What data exists? What does data look like in my own community? How can I compare that to other communities across the state? It's a pretty comprehensive report, and I have some if you all would like to take them on your way out. They're available online as well. But I do fundamentally believe that this is that time where we succeed or we fail, and it's going to impact multiple generations of Tennesseans. 3 years ago, when Tennessee literally won the national championship in public policy, and I firmly believe if you lined up 100 folks in this country who were at the top of their game in education reform and rapidly accelerating student achievement, and you asked them which state in this nation comes to mind when you think of the folks who have the environmental conditions right for improving student outcomes and preparing students for the marketplace, I would say 99 out of 100 of those reformers would identify Tennessee as a leader. That's where we are. We're not in the bottom. We're in the very top, but that's in policy. So Michael Barber actually came to Tennessee, and he was the education advocate and reformer for former Prime Minister Tony Blair. And they radically transformed how they deliver education in Great Britain during his time. They tried it twice. They succeeded once. What he learned from the first time they tried it was they put in a lot of great policies. State of Tennessee or Great Britain and their national level of government put in all these policies. 4 years later and 5 years later, they walked around classrooms and walked in schools in Great Britain, and they didn't see any difference in the delivery. No difference in the outcomes, no difference in student achievement. And so for us, let us learn the easy way through the learnings of others and the experience of others, that we've got to be dedicated to the implementation of these policies. We've got to reflect when they're working well, accelerate them. If perhaps what looked good on paper isn't functioning as well as it could to improve student achievement, let's refine it, but do not relent as members of the business community. This is the time where we will radically accelerate student achievement, or the status quo will engulf us and we'll keep getting the product that we have right now. And there are too many people working too hard in Tennessee schools. There are too many people like you all who are investing their time, energy, and effort as partners in this work for us to fail. So I'm very excited about the work ahead, and I'm thrilled that you all are active partners in the process. Last but not least, these are the 8 bajillion ways that you can get in touch with me. And we hope to be a resource for you. We have, whether it's blogs, we have news, we have all different kinds of things. We pull information all across the country. We don't put it through a filter of an agenda except improving student achievement. And we want to make sure that we have knowledgeable citizens about the landscape of what's happening, not only in Tennessee, but around the country, because that's the expectation that we have for our students and we have for ourselves. So with that, I want to thank the Chamber for your leadership. Really appreciate you all having me as a guest. It's a privilege to be here, and it is frankly easy for me to when I encourage other communities to really drive and lead in education, I point to this chamber, this community as a proof point in how folks are getting it done. Deborah and I spent a good bit of time talking about Yes, sir.
Just a comment. About 3-4 years ago, we began talking about in this chamber how to put together an educational leadership academy. Last year, that academy became a reality, fully funded by the private sector, no public money involved. Your own Sharon Roberts was a part of that teaching faculty for the last year, partnered with Union University, Sumner County Schools, and every one of our private sponsors have agreed they want to sponsor it again next year. We're going to expand that sponsorship slightly, but what we're focusing on, aspiring new leaders and teacher leaders. And we're excited about the things that we have planned this summer, the improvements that have already been identified in schools throughout Sumner County as a result of our experience last year, and the adoption of Union University and Gateway Elementary in Portland, one of our low-performing schools in Sumner County, and we have tremendous expectations of what's going to happen next year.
Well, so if I might, back to priorities. So if you all will see on number 3, that's the perfect example of what we as community leaders need to be thinking about, is making sure that we have effective leaders in every school and identifying those rock stars and training them up. And frankly, the role of a principal has changed dramatically. The role of instructional leader is paramount, and while public safety, critically important. Buses running on time, critically important. Management of the building, critically important. But every day, every minute of every day, we want our leaders of schools thinking about advancing student achievement, number 1. We want them worrying about it in the shower when they're getting ready. We want them thinking about it all day long, and we want them supporting great teaching in every classroom. And so thank you for your leadership to say we want to make sure that we have the highest caliber instructional leaders in our schools. And I can't wait for us to study the results of that program so that we can share it with other communities, because we really think the delivery model is changing dramatically on how we bring new leaders into Tennessee schools. And so we'll have to make sure that Sharon does a little, she has her neutral hat on when she's leading the research team as our Chief Operating Officer at SCORE, but we look forward to studying your results.
Yes, I'd like to, first of all, applaud you for having the political courage to leave your position in the State Senate and move into this incredibly important work. I also have a question, though, that has to do with really the landscape, not only here locally and even nationally, but we all know that we're in a global economy. We're not just competing with the counties around us or the states around us. So how do we evaluate where we are as a community and a region in comparison with those students who are coming up in Great Britain and Germany and China and Korea and all of those countries that we have to compete with every day?
Sure. Well, one, the data and empowering citizens through information, I think it can be a pretty powerful tool. I mean, when I look at the data that tells us that Tennessee kids are only 16% of them are college and career ready, and we look at the national average at 25, but we know, regardless of the national average, that 8 out of 10 fastest growing job sectors are going to require post-secondary. There's some real power in that information, some real reality. So to the extent that you all need data source on how you all not only compare to other communities in the state, but other high-performing schools in the nation and country, feel free to use us as a resource for that information. We pride ourselves in pushing to simplifying complex data and digestible information for real people. I'm typically the proof point for our research team when they come together and they start talking. And I used to think I was pretty smart until I started really working intentionally with these great statisticians and researchers. But it's about bringing that data to life. So if we can provide that resource for you, I would certainly be honored to do that. And I would also say that the plan, Tennessee's plan to reform, is based not on a Tennessee benchmark, which frankly, I think that our standards are very high, but we've got to be able to justify them with the expectations of the world. And so this new plan is really with the expectation of international competitiveness, not just doing great. I mean, it's wonderful that, you know, Sumner County is beating Wilson County. I happen to live in Wilson County. That's a wonderful thing to celebrate. It just feels a little bit hollow when you know what the highest performing communities in the country are doing, and when you know that the leaders in this community really want Hendersonville to be the place of choice, not just in a three-county region. And so, so to the extent we can provide resources, we certainly want to do that. And I can tell you, while I did not expect to leave public service, I was compelled by a sense of what time we're in. If we don't do this now, I'm too young for a midlife crisis. As a matter of fact, tomorrow is my 41st birthday. Way too young for that, but I thought, you know, policy is critically important, and we've got to sustain policy leadership, number one. But the work that's happening in communities right now is where the rubber meets the road, and I didn't want to wake up in 5 years and say, no, nothing really changed, but we won the national championship in public policy. I want to win the national championship and the international championship in improving student outcomes. And I think the plan that's in place and the work that you all are doing is the right stuff. Just lean in. Thanks. Yes, sir?
Going around my head since you started. Again,
I realize I'm talking to an educator now, and I'm getting a question.
You know, on the front end, I will say I'm a firm advocate of competence standard. I think it's a brilliant idea. I'm a firm believer in allowing students to have mastery of concept rather than just buzzing through things. So totally supportive of that. Here's my concern, and it's very quick three-part question. I know the park assessments are going to be coming, which is a change from the TCAP. So the first question is, do you believe that a measure of proficiency on the park is going to be apples to apples with the TCAP? Number two, do you believe the technology will be in place in time for all the schools to begin using that assessment tool? And number three, which I'm drawing a blank on, number three is the TBOS scores. And given the historical data uses TCAP, we made allowances for that changeover, which will be about a 2-year period where it's going to be a blend of both TCAP and park scores.
Okay, so those are awesome questions, by the way. And for those of you who don't know what park is, just a quick catch up. There's a consortium of states who are working together to try to develop new generation assessments that will replace, the intention is in Tennessee that they will replace current TCAP, which is our state assessment in math and English language arts. Checking? Yeah, I don't have my people here to kind of give me the hook if I'm not giving the right information. So that's essentially what we're talking about. So one is apples to apples. Do I think it will be apples to apples with TCAP? So no, I think it's going to be a new standard. There's going to be a new expectation. So do I think that it's along the same trajectory of when we adjusted the assessments to new standards under the Tennessee Diploma Project, and that was the right next step? Do I think Park will be able to get to that right next step in new generation assessments? I think that they will, and this gets into your second question. So I think it's going to put us in an apples-to-apples situation with the country, and I think that's going to be a very good thing. The second part of your question was, are we technologically ready? So, confessions by Jamie Woodson. One of the spiders in my bed is readiness on this. Not just from Park, which I know that they are working diligently to be ready with these assessments, but our own readiness as a state. Do we have the infrastructure? And it's why technology came to such a high point on our list and for our focus. We've got to make sure that there's the infrastructure in Tennessee for these new generation assessments so that teachers, and it's not just for Park, it's really so teachers real time can get information, assess it, and then diagnose, what is this problem? How do I accelerate? Do I need to intervene? All the things that you all do every day. So I'm concerned. I'm encouraged that I know that the Commissioner of Education, Kevin Huffman, is as equally concerned about readiness as I am, and as the folks who are wanting Tennessee to be ready to run in 2014-15 when these are newly implemented. But I'm concerned on that. On the third, as far as value-added, knowing, and essentially the bottom line on value-added is knowing from the moment a student steps into a classroom, what they learn through that process, do they grow in their learning, and how do we assess that? Our current value-added system that's using TCAPs and other assessments to know the growth of a student over a period of time, the folks at who not only calculate our value-added, other researchers around the country say that value-added is absolutely see that in high-performing countries, that whether they're using the PISA or some comparable assessment, you got the ability to show student growth through those assessments. So I'm less worried about that, but the devil's in the details. Value added is a very important tool for Tennessee because it also is part of the basis for our educator evaluations, to know when we evaluate a teacher and we say, are your students learning? Even though it's not 100%, it should be 100% of their evaluation, it should be an important part of it, and we should have faith in that system, that it's accurate, and teachers should have confidence in that system. So that's a really important question. I actually feel pretty good about that, but that's a question we're going to keep pushing on and until we actually have the assessments. But the folks over at the headquarters that calculate our TVAS right now are assuring us that that's just a matter of really right folks getting into a room with lots of great technology and banging out the right formula. So, which is probably not the way I should describe it, but I feel good about the intake at this point. Any other questions? Those are great questions, by the way. But it's readiness for those assessments is going to be very, very important. Right. Well, with that, I will say thank you all so much. It's an honor to be with you, and just appreciate the leadership of the folks here in this room. And do call on us if we can ever be helpful to you in your journey to make sure that students here in Sumner County are college and career ready. So thank you.
Thank you for coming today. I'd like to present you with the project. I really appreciate you taking the time. And the reason I asked that last question, quite honestly, is because the business community needs to continue to be involved in this process. And technology, I feel, and I believe you feel the same way, is going to be something that we're up against. So as we're looking to form coalitions to support this reform effort, I really do think that we need to keep a keen eye on technology and what business can do to help.
I think that you all could just an important guiding hand that's providing support, but also making sure that really good decisions are made and encouraging support for local communities who are facing the reality of building that infrastructure. We've got to have it, but we've got to have all hands on deck to make sure kids are ready. So thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Appreciate it. With that, I'd like to invite Cassie up to do some housekeeping for us.
Real quick, I'm going to talk about a few things that everyone needs to have on their calendars. First, our Connect opportunities. Don't forget, every Wednesday we have leads at 12 o'clock at the chamber. We also have our business after hours March 21st at Liberty Party. And one thing everyone in this room needs to make sure you know, next luncheon, the first Tuesday of the month, we will not be here. So the Chamber's luncheon will not take place the 1st of April. Instead, the United Chambers luncheon will take place of hours, but it's going to be on the 18th. So we're going to make sure, don't show up here on the first Tuesday of the month. Your chamber won't be here to greet you, unfortunately. Bluegrass will be. So come back on the 18th for the United Chambers. You'll make your reservation through, you can make it through us, Gallatin, whichever chamber you want to make a reservation through. And next, I'd like to bring up Greg. Where'd you go, Greg? He's going to talk to y'all about the golf tournament.
I was going to say good morning, but good afternoon, everyone. And again, it gives me great pleasure. I guess mine's Greg Dagan, I should say. I'm with Mid-South Business for Supply. And Hendersonville Chamber members and guests, it gives me great pleasure to announce the 23rd annual Hendersonville Chamber of Commerce Golf Tournament. Actually scheduled for Monday, April 22nd, right here at the beautifully elegant Bluegrass Country Club. This gorgeous, picturesque 18-hole par 72 golf course was built in 1951. And gang, it truly takes your breath away. All of the golf courses truly pale in comparison. Again, our main sponsor is Hallmark Automotive Group. Our gold sponsors, we have our Piedmont Natural Gas and Sumner Roofing Exteriors. Our silver sponsor is the Goddard School. Again, it's going to be a fun day of golf, networking, and actually an award ceremony held right here in the main ballroom. This could not be possible if it wasn't for the great work and effort put through the Hendersonville Chamber of Commerce, the wonderful ladies, Cassie, Wendy, and Britt. think there are a couple of few sponsorships available to purchase, or if you want to sign up as an individual or a group, you can do that. Please see Cassie after luncheon. You guys, this event is already half full. Let's tee it up in April and have fun. Thank you.
Two other quick things that we've got going on in the chamber. Next weekend, everyone in this room has plans. I don't know if you know that, but you will be at the Hendersonville Expo Center on the 16th through the 17th to come to the Mid-10 Home Show. It's going to be great. There's lots of interest, and I do need some volunteers if anyone would like to help work the ticket booth. Also, save the date for April 5th. Is our coffee conversations. It will be 7:30 a.m. here at Bluegrass. And we will have the state legislators and Congresswoman Diane Black will be here. So, and next on the list is Hendersonville Christian Academy.
Thanks so much, Cassie. Before I put on my display table hat, let me put on my chamber hat and tell you a little bit about a part of the chamber that maybe you're not familiar with, that I think deserves attention today with Jamie's presentation, and that is that we have the Henderson Chamber Foundation. The Hendersonville Chamber Foundation is the nonprofit arm, or I should say the charitable arm, of our Chamber of Commerce. And through that, we're able to fund initiatives that are about education. In fact, our motto is, it's all about education. Dr. Lee, he referenced the Leadership Academy, and the Chamber Foundation last year was one of the sponsors of that Leadership Academy. So I think it's worthy of note today, Len, and I appreciate you letting me take this liberty. I didn't really ask, but I'm going to admit it. But I serve on the board of directors with the foundation, and we do a lot of great work when it comes to education here in Sumner County and improving public education. That's very important. And that's what the Chamber Foundation is all about. When you come to, for example, the Freedom Festival on July 3rd, when you sponsor the Freedom Festival, that money is going directly to these type of initiatives that we're talking about. Compass was referenced. Compass started off as Pencil. Those of you that have been around for a long time, Pencil was born, as was mentioned, here with people in this room and folks like you, and that comes about through the Chamber Foundation. So I thought it was worthy of note today, Brenda, for us to put in a plug for the Chamber Foundation, and very important work that is done here. Now I'll put on the hat for our display table today. We've been talking about public education today. Let me share with you an opportunity for private education here in Sumner County, Hendersonville Christian Academy. My name is William Slater, and I'm the headmaster there. Let me introduce to you two of our folks that are with me today. Our admissions director, Angel Andrus, is here, and then our promotional director, Danielle Slater. And we're certainly privileged to be here in Sumner County. Last year, we celebrated our 35th anniversary here in Sumner County. This year, we're enjoying a record enrollment at our school, and quite honestly, on our main campus, we're out of program space. I hate to say that we're out of space because then you'll think that we don't have any spots available. We do have spots available in some classes, but I just can't start any other programs or any other classes on the campus where we are. So what we are doing is we are working on partnering with folks around the county for extension campuses. We started a new campus in Gallatin back in August in 2012. We're opening up a new campus in Goodlettsville in 2013. Our goal is 5 campuses in 5 years, and so we're looking forward to that. So that's announcement number 1. Announcement number 2, we continue to grow, and one of the things that we're doing for the 2013-14 year is that we are joining the TSSAA. Of course, that will mean growth for our school, but also for our student athletes. We have great student athletes. In fact, in the past 3 years, even though we're a very small school, we have 5 students that have earned college scholarships through our athletic program. We believe that being part of the TSSAA will continue to improve opportunities for our students. Now, one last item, and you'll see on your table that we have a summer day camp program, Camp Crusader. Love for you to consider or help us to spread the word about Camp Crusader. One of the things that makes our camp a little bit different than many of the ones in town is that you can come by the day or the week or the month. You can just pick out one day in the summer, so you don't have to sign up for a whole week or a whole month. that type of a thing. So it's kind of a do-drop in type of a situation. Talk to the ladies about Camp Crusader, and we'd love to have your kids in that. We already drew a name, and wouldn't you know it, it is Monique Waller from Bluegrass right here. So how about that? To Carrabba, so how about that?
Appreciate it. Thank you, William. A great supporter of not only the Chamber, but the Chamber Foundation. He's been very, very involved in education here in and around this chamber for a long, long time. My last thing to do is to give a door prize from Signature Cleaners. We've been doing this, thank you in advance, for a long, long time. This is a $25 gift certificate, and it was won by Kara Brumley. Yes, I know, back there at that back table. Please, please have a great afternoon. Thank you again, Jamie, for bringing a wonderful roller program to us. Everybody be careful out there in that weather, and we'll see you again next Monday. United